What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. And if you are someone who follows crypto even a little bit, today's video is going to be one of the most important ones you watch this year. Because today we are doing a full deep dive on XRP, one of the most talked about, most controversial and honestly most misunderstood coins in the entire crypto space. This is the coin that fought a 5-year legal battle against one of the most powerful financial regulators in the world. This is the coin that got delisted from almost every major exchange, that investors gave up on, that media declared dead multiple times. And yet here we are in 2026 and XRP is not just alive, it is arguably in the strongest position it has ever been in its entire history. So if you want to understand what is actually happening with XRP right now, what changed, what is coming next, and what it means for the price, stay with me till the end. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. Let's start with the foundation, the thing that changed everything for XRP. For years, the single biggest problem holding XRP back was not the technology, it was not the team, it was not the use case. It was one lawsuit, Ripple versus the SEC. Back in December 2020, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission sued Ripple Labs, claiming that XRP was an unregistered security, and that one filing sent shockwaves through the entire crypto market. Coinbase delisted XRP, Kraken delisted XRP, Binance US delisted XRP, institutional investors ran away. Retail investors panicked, the price collapsed. For 4.5 years, every time XRP started to gain momentum, that lawsuit would come back up and kill the excitement. But then August 2025 it finally ended. Ripple and the SEC both dropped their appeals and the case was officially closed. Ripple paid a $50 million settlement, which sounds like a lot, but remember, the SEC was originally demanding $125 million. That is a massive win for Ripple in terms of the final outcome. And the most critical legal ruling that came out of all of this? The court confirmed that XRP is not a security when traded on the secondary market. That means when you or I buy XRP on an exchange, it is completely legal, it is not a securities transaction. This ruling did not just help XRP, it set a precedent for the entire crypto industry in the United States. For the first time there was actual legal clarity on how a major digital asset should be classified. XRP went from being a litigation asset, something you hold and pray about, to a regulated utility, something institutions can actually build around. And that shift in legal status opened every single door that had been closed for years. Now let's talk about what walked through those open doors almost immediately. The spot. XRP ETF. Right after the legal clarity was established in late 2025, multiple major asset managers filed for and received approval for spot XRP ETFs. The first funds officially launched in November 2025, and I want you to really let this number sink in. As of today, XRP ETFs have accumulated over $1.44 billion in cumulative inflows. That is not a small number. That is serious institutional money moving into XRP in a very short period of time. Now let me break down why the ETF is such a massive deal, because I think a lot of people underestimate it. Before the ETF, if you wanted to invest in XRP, you had to set up a crypto exchange account, go through KYC verification, figure out wallets, manage private keys. It was a whole process. Most institutional funds, pension funds, and retirement accounts simply could not touch crypto because of compliance rules. The ETF changes all of that completely. Now a pension fund manager in New York can add XRP exposure to a portfolio with a few clicks, same as buying any stock. A retirement account holder can now have XRP in their 401,000 without ever touching a crypto exchange. This is what real mainstream adoption actually looks like, and we are watching it happen in real time. And it is not just ETFs. XRP futures trading on the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, crossed tens of billions of dollars in notional volume during its very first year of activity. The CME is where the most serious institutional traders operate. The fact that XRP futures volume is this high tells you everything about how the professional finance world now views this asset. XRP is no longer just a retail crypto token. It is becoming a legitimate macro asset class. Okay, now let's get into the technical side, what is actually happening with the XRP Ledger itself. Because while all the legal and financial news gets most of the attention, the development happening on XRP is seriously underrated. On May 27, 2026, literally just yesterday, a major network update called Fix Cleanup 313 went live on the XRP Ledger. This amendment cleaned up expired ENF data that was clogging the network, patched important bugs in the vault system and the lending protocol, and overall made the ledger more efficient and reliable. Now you might be thinking, okay, cool, a bug fix, why does that matter? It matters because it shows that the developers are actively maintaining and improving the network, and that enterprise-grade reliability is being taken seriously. When banks and financial institutions are using your network to move real money, even small bugs can have massive consequences. Fixing them fast is critical, and this is just one update. The next major version, XRP 3.2.0, is already in active development. This upcoming release is focused on strengthening the core security, infrastructure, and the foundational architecture of the entire ledger. There is also a symbolic but meaningful change happening. The core server software is being renamed from Rippled to XRPLed. It is a small thing on the surface, but it signals that the XRP Ledger is being developed as its own independent identity, separate from just being Ripple's thing. In March 2026, something really forward-thinking was added. AI-driven security testing was integrated into the Ledger's development process. Red Team and Blue Team exercises powered by AI are now actively scanning the network for vulnerabilities before any malicious actor ever gets a chance to find them. This is the kind of enterprise security approach you see in major banking infrastructure, and XRPL is adopting it. And there is one more technical development worth highlighting. A new draft proposal has been filed to add 3 new curve types to XRPL's native automated market maker. If this proposal passes, it would give liquidity providers far more efficient and flexible ways to deploy their capital on the ledger. This would directly address one of the biggest gaps in XRPL's DeFi ecosystem and could attract a whole new wave of DeFi activity to the network. The bottom line on the technical side is this: the XRP Ledger is not coasting, it is building. Now let's zoom out and look at Ripple the company, because what they have been doing in 2026 is nothing short of a full global expansion. In January 2026, Ripple received FCA approval in the United Kingdom. The FCA is the Financial Conduct Authority. It is one of the most respected and strict financial regulators in the world. Getting their approval means Ripple can now operate as a fully regulated financial entity in the UK market. Then in February 2026, Ripple received full EMI electronic money institution approval in Luxembourg. Luxembourg is one of the most important financial hubs in Europe, home to some of the world's largest investment funds. This approval opens the door for Ripple to operate and expand across the entire European Union. Ripple also made a huge strategic move by acquiring Hidden Road, a prime brokerage firm, for $1.25 billion. Prime brokerages are the firms that handle trading, lending, and clearing for the world's biggest hedge funds and institutional investors. By acquiring one, Ripple is planting itself right at the center of institutional finance, not just knocking on the door but buying a seat at the table. And then there is RLUSD Triple Zone stablecoin, which launched in December 2024. RLUSD has already crossed $1 billion in market capitalization, which is a significant milestone for any stablecoin in its first year. The combination of XRP and RLUSD working together creates a complete payments infrastructure: XRP for speed and liquidity, RLUSD for stable value transfer. But perhaps the most powerful real-world stat of all, over 300 banks and financial institutions are now actively using XRP to settle international payments. Think about what that means. These are real institutions moving real money, using XRP as the settlement layer. SWIFT, the traditional international payment system, takes 3 to 5 business days to move money across borders and charges significant fees. XRP does the same thing in 3 to 5 seconds at a fraction of the cost. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Ripple is not just a crypto company with a good story anymore, it is becoming a core piece of the global financial system. Alright, now let's get to the part that I know everyone is actually here for: the price. Where is XRP right now, and realistically, where could it go from here? As of today, May 28, 2026, XRP is trading at around $1.32. Now on a shorter time frame, the technical picture is a bit mixed. There is some bearish pressure from the moving averages on the 4-hour chart. But on the daily chart, there are bullish signals starting to form, and the weekly chart shows that the longer-term trend is still supported. So what are the catalysts that could move the price significantly from here? Analysts are pointing to 2 major ones that you need to watch closely. The first is the Clarity Act. This is a piece of US legislation that would formally define and classify digital assets under American law. XRP has already been recognized as a utility-based commodity for secondary market transactions, and the Clarity Act would codify that into law, making it permanent and bulletproof. If this bill passes the Senate, it removes any remaining regulatory uncertainty around XRP once and for all, and that kind of certainty is exactly what institutional investors need to go all in. The second catalyst is continued and accelerating ETF inflows. We are already at 1.44 billion, but that is just the beginning. If major pension funds and sovereign wealth funds start allocating even a small percentage to XRP, analysts say that if the Clarity Act passes alone, XRP could break above $2 relatively quickly. And if both the Clarity Act passes and ETF inflows continue to accelerate, some analysts are placing end-of-year targets of $5 or higher. Now for some perspective, XRP's all-time high was $3.84. Set back in 2021. Many analysts believe that this cycle has the fundamental backing to not just test that level but potentially break through it. The more optimistic projections, assuming massive institutional adoption materializes, go as high as $10. But here is what I always say on this channel, and I will keep saying it: these are projections. Based on current data and trends, not promises. Crypto markets are volatile, unpredictable, and can move in any direction at any time. Always do your own research. Only invest what you are genuinely okay with losing, and never make financial decisions based solely on a YouTube video. Let me give you the big picture view before we close out. XRP was originally created to solve one problem: making cross-border payments faster, cheaper, and more accessible. And everything that is happening right now in 2026, the legal clarity, the ETFs, the institutional adoption, the technical upgrades, the global expansion, it is all pointing toward that original vision actually becoming reality at scale. For years, XRP critics said the use case was theoretical, that no real banks would use it, that Ripple would lose the lawsuit and XRP would go to zero. Every single one of those narratives has been proven wrong. The lawsuit is over and Ripple won on the most important point. Real banks are using it. Real institutions are investing in it, and the technology keeps getting better, more secure, and more capable with every update. XRP's journey has been one of the most dramatic stories in all of crypto, filled with legal battles, uncertainty, fear, and doubt. But the people who understood the long-term vision, who did their research, who stayed patient through all of it, they are looking at a very different picture today. Alright, let's do a quick recap before we wrap up. 1. The SEC lawsuit ended in August 2025, Ripple paid $50 million, and XRP is legally recognized as a non-security in the secondary market. 2. Spot XRP ETFs launched in November 2025 and have already pulled in over $1.44 billion in inflows. 3. The XRP Ledger is being actively upgraded. Version 3.1.3 just went live, version 3.2.0 is in development, and AI-driven security has been integrated. 4. Ripple has regulatory approval in the UK and Europe, acquired a prime brokerage firm, launched a stablecoin past $1 billion in market cap, and has over 300 banks using XRP. 5. The price is around $1.32 today, and the two biggest catalysts to watch are the Clarity Act Senate vote and continued ETF inflows. XRP has come a long, long way, and honestly, based on everything happening right now, it feels like the story is just getting started. Do you hold XRP? Are you watching from the sidelines? Let me know in the comments. I genuinely read every single one. If this video added any value for you, please hit that like button. It seriously helps this channel more than you know. Subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you never miss when we drop new content. I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and as always, stay informed, stay patient, and make smart decisions.